What is up, everybody? How is it going? Austin Prechtelevate Performance, coming at you live. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope you are having a damn good day so far. We're about to jump into an interesting topic. It's something that not a lot of people think about whenever it comes to their weight loss journeys. It's not something a lot of people think about when it comes to their cardio. A lot of people may do it one way or another, but we're going to talk about why this is so important when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to doing cardio, if you're somebody that does cardio, and how I think you need to shift your perspective of cardio if you're not thinking about it this way. Because a lot of people who are trying to lose weight are doing cardio, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think cardio can be an effective tool. But how you perceive and how you view cardio that you're doing, that can be tricky. Because you may be messing yourself up. You may be slowing down your own progress because you're doing maybe you're doing 30 or 60 minutes of cardio a day, right? Let me kind of paint a little picture. Maybe you're doing 30, 60 minutes of cardio a day. Your diet's on point, right? From what you think it should be, but you're still not losing weight, right? The way that you think that you should be. And this might be why, what I'm about to talk about, this might be why. Because, there were times where they would just be like, okay, I'm going to do a 15 minutes today, every day this week. And that's all I'm going to do. That's my cardio. That's how I'm tracking it. That's how I'm going to get myself into a caloric deficit so I can lose weight. And what ended up, and then, they end up not losing the weight. And they're like, what the heck? I've been doing my cardio. And then they bump it up again. I'm like, well, shit, I'm doing 30 minutes of cardio every day now, and I'm still not seeing the progress. Why is this not working for me? Why am I still not seeing progress, right? Assuming your diet is on point, right? Assuming you're doing those things correctly. And this is probably why. This is something that, this is why I think that tracking your steps is way fucking better than just saying I'm going to do 15 minutes of cardio a day, or saying I'm going to do 30 minutes, or even saying I'm going to do 60 minutes of cardio a day. This is why tracking your steps is so damn important if you're trying to lose weight, because you're probably, if you're not doing that, you're leaving a lot of things to be up in the air for your journey, for your progress to be had. Um, because what, and before I kind of jump into it, and I know that's kind of a mouthful, but what that means basically is your NEAT activity for the day, NEAT for the day, is basically the calories that your body burns, right? Outside of exercise, outside of like sleep, outside of those things, but like your day to day movements, right? Getting like fidgeting, like me just standing here, moving my hands and things like that, me walking to go to the fridge or to the sink to go get water, like that's neat. Those are calories being burned to keep me alive, functioning, just like, the in between stuff of the day to day that's outside of exercise. Those things matter. Those things, like I just said, burn calories. And so if you're burning calories during those periods of time, like that that adds up into your total calorie burn for the day, right? And if you're doing the trap that a lot of people fall in, right, and why it's so important to keep track of your steps, is that if you have like a desk job, especially if you have a desk job, or if it's the weekend or whatever, and you have the opportunity to lay around or not move as much, people who do a shit ton of cardio every day, like that, are just like saying, I'm going to do 60 minutes a day, to be just kind of like laying around the rest of the day or sitting around the rest of the day. Things like that can happen that are going to basically negate how many calories you burn that day, because you're not moving. Your NEAT activity is lower because you just did 60 minutes of cardio. You just did an hour and a half of cardio or whatever it may have been. And granted, you're probably going to hit your step goal if you do that much, but that is something that not a lot of people think about or take into account. And so if you're not tracking your steps, you don't know how many steps that you got in that day. You don't know how much, like, a relative estimate of your NEAT was that day, right? And so you don't know what to adjust necessarily. Like, yeah, you could bump up your cardio by 5 minutes, but you might just lay around for an extra 5 minutes that day, or you might just like sit around and for an extra half hour, hour that day, and not do as much because that happens a lot of times, especially as you get to lower and lower body weights. So you need to be careful of these things because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about, and so stuff outside of your workouts that burns those calories, that's keeping you alive, basically, that's your neat activity for the day, right? That's your neat. And so if that's lower, even though you did 30 minutes, 60 minutes of cardio, you're if you're laying around all day afterwards, you're not getting that neat up, right? And so that way, and so in a sense, you're not getting that calorie amount burned each day. So you're not really actually like, and I don't like to say it this way, but this is like a kind of a way to think about it. Uh, you're not earning those calories for the day necessarily that your body should be at to be considered at maintenance, right? Your maintenance is kind of like lower in a sense because you're not moving as much, you're not as active throughout the day. This is especially true for people who are earlier on in their journeys that don't have the habit of being as active and don't have the habit of moving around as much because it might be hard, right? It might be difficult. It might be you might be fucking exhausted. Your joints might hurt. You might be if you've got kids. Like fuck, it is so much easier to like relax and like kind of lay around, try to like chill out and try to like deal with all that shit sometimes than it is to be up and moving around and going on walks and things like that, right? And so, especially if you're fucking tired as shit because you got kids, and so this is something to think about and why, like, if you're not tracking your steps, you're leaving a lot of factors at play. You're leaving a lot of factors at play that could be impacting why you're not losing weight and why you're not seeing progress whenever you think that you should be. And so, first course of action, right? Start tracking your steps. You need to start tracking your steps. This is something that I didn't used to do, right? Like the prevalence of smartwatches, step trackers in your phone, like all those things that exist now, didn't necessarily exist back then. And so, I remember I saw like, I don't even know where I saw it, but like at this old gym that I used to go to, they would give people step trackers that they would physically hold a step tracker in their hand and walk with that shit on the treadmill or walk around. And I remember seeing those and thinking like that's weird. Why would people have that? But it's because they want to know how many steps they're getting. And granted, some of them were probably for like to keep track of like how many miles they were doing and things like that before treadmills kind of had that built in. But it's just something that you need to take into consideration. But you need to start tracking your steps, right? You need to start tracking your steps. I see a comment here that says watching while I do my 50 minutes cardio. Yeah, and that's a great point because I want to touch base on that because you need to start tracking your steps, whether you have a watch or with your phone or whatever it may be that's built in. They have cheap ones on Amazon. Like it doesn't have to be an expensive buy or an expensive purchase, but you need to be doing this because you need to be tracking your steps instead of just relying on I did 30 minutes of cardio today. I'm good. I got my cardio in or whatever it may be. No, that's not good enough. Right? You need to know how many steps you're getting in for the day because then, right, if you're at the point where you're trying to supplement some of your caloric deficit with cardio, right? Then, oh, okay, I stopped kind of losing weight. I don't really want to lower my calories yet. Well, what can I do? Well, I can bump up my steps by a couple thousand a day, right? I'm going to bump my neat up by doing that. Whereas if you're just like, oh, well, I did 15 minutes of cardio, I'm going to bump it up to 20 minutes of cardio instead. Um, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting any more activity for the day if you're laying around extra, throughout the day because you did that. So, this takes that factor, that human laziness or the randomness of the day factor out of the equation, and now you're in control of those things. And so when you're in control of those things, you're able to like make changes here and there that can help you lose weight more effectively. And so making sure that you're keeping track of that's super important, guys. And so um, it's way easier, like I just said, to isolate that one factor, right? That ties in the cardio that you're already doing into it. So like, like here, like those 15 minutes of cardio that you're doing right now, that's adding into your neat, right? You got that 15 minutes in, you're probably going to get a couple thousand steps in from doing that. Awesome. Like sweet. That adds to your total. And now you just have to make sure that you keep hitting that total and reach that like that total that you want to do. And so it's that's how you should be thinking about this. You guys shouldn't be thinking of like cardio as like, okay, I got to do my 15 minutes of cardio. I got to do my 30 minutes of cardio. It's like, no, I got to get my steps in that day, right? I got to get those steps in for that day because that's going to get my neat to be where I need it to be to reach my goals. And so, and if you want to view that as that cardio that you're doing as part of that, that's fine. But you need to make sure that you're hitting those numbers, because otherwise you're not earning those calories that you should be consuming to be considered at maintenance, right? Your maintenance is probably going to be a lot lower if you've been laying around the whole day and you only get like a thousand or 2,000 steps in a day, right? And so, yeah, and don't look at it as just look at it as like walking. Like, you don't have to do any cardio to lose weight. You just need to get your net activity up enough for the day, whether that's through walking around, or like I walk between my sets, right? When I'm at the gym, I walk between my sets. I get a couple extra thousand steps in just from walking between my sets while I'm resting, right? Doing that, walking around, like making sure you're getting up. For me, sometimes I will now, it's because I don't want anybody to hit my car, but but I'll park further away in the out whenever I go to the grocery store, or at the gym. I'll park further away because that's going to mean I get more steps in going to the gym. And then it kind of becomes like a game, like a fun game. It's like, okay, well, like I don't, that's not a pain in the ass. That's a way for me to get my NEAT up, basically, so that way I can have those calories that I should be getting in to be healthy and to feel good. And so so start viewing it like that. And one thing too is that, like, just for like a general rule of thumb, right? Anybody that's watching this, you should probably be getting around 7 to 10K steps in a day, like, period. Like, if you're not hitting that 7K step mark, you should not be probably eating the amount of calories that whatever technically should be your maintenance based on a variety of factors. But like, if you're not getting seven steps a day, 7K steps a day in, right, 7,000 steps in a day, you probably unfortunately don't get more. You don't get the food. You shouldn't be getting the food that you're eating right now. And the amount for you, right? It's good for your health in a lot of senses. So just some tips is, like, I always go for a walk after I eat, after I have a meal. Helps with digestion, which is nice. Helps kind of prevent some of that sleepiness post meal, which is great. And also, you're getting your net activity for the day, up. And so just keep that thing in mind. Like, go like it easy. Like, I just talked to a client today on our group coaching call about how she gets 4 15-minute walks in a day. Right? You can do that. Like, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't have to go walk on a treadmill or run or anything like that. Like, you can do it however it works for you. But like, if you get to the end of your day and you're like, fuck, like, I'm at like 3K steps today, you bump that shit up. You need to walk around your house before you go to bed, because otherwise you're probably in a caloric surplus, right? And you're probably not going to lose weight for that day in the way that you were hoping to. Because of that. And so I see Jessica Miller says, getting some steps on my lunch currently. Hell yeah. I try to do some sort of cardio daily. Definitely working on more steps for sure. Absolutely, Candy. That's awesome. Okay, I got to find my smartwatch that I misplaced. Hell yeah, you do, Kira. Get that shit. Your phone may track. I know my fitness pal even has like it in there, but if anybody's got, like, there's like usually like health apps that our phones have built into them that you can use. Let's see. Yes, I do the same at the store for both the same reason. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's super important because, like, we're not, because yeah, your maintenance calories should be at that amount, right? They should be based on, assuming that you're getting a healthy level of activity in for the day. But if you, do some cardio and then you're eating your calories that you should be having, right? But then you lay around all day, or you're, like, tired, and this is something important too to keep in mind. Like, if you're sick, right? If you're sick, or if you're injured and you can't move around as much as you'd like to, right? Your maintenance calories probably should be lower, right? And for that day at least, or for while you're injured. And it sucks. Nobody wants to be told, like, you have to eat less food because you're moving around less. But at the end of the day, if you want to get results, you need to do the shit that's going to work, and you need to, suck it up. I guess it sucks. It's not fun, but at the end of the day, you just got to keep that in mind. And so I fucking love food. I want to eat as much damn food as possible in my day to day. So yeah, I'm gonna get my fucking steps in. So on average, 7 to 10K steps. Right? Start with 7K steps. If you want to get more, ride that out till the wheels fall off until you stop seeing progress with where, if you're using those calories as like you're trying to get that caloric surplus. But that's just like day-to-day activity that you should be getting in for health. If Once that stops working, right, bump it up to 8 or 9K steps, right? And then once that stops working, bump that up to 10 or 11K steps, right? If you're at the period of time where you're using cardio as a caloric deficit tool, right? Eventually, work your way up to getting, like over time, like you can get a shit ton of steps in your day, right? If you're working an office job, it is tougher, right? It is tougher, but that's why you need to be diligent about this, right? You need to make sure that you're, taking these things into account and and accounting for it, so that way you can still reach your goals, right? Whether you like, if you're at home, right? If you work from home or you're a desk job, build in some walks while you eat, while you like walk while you eat, right? During your lunch. Like you carry bring something that you can carry and walk and eat. Walk between your sets while you're working out. Park a little bit further during whenever you go get groceries or when you go to the gym. Like get creative with this shit, but find a way to get those steps in. Because once it's just like, oh, I just got to hit those steps, you can walk around your fucking house at nighttime. You don't need a treadmill to do that, right? Because a lot of people get in their head, they're like, oh, I have to be able to like walk outside, and maybe the weather sucks, I don't want to do it, or maybe that people are thinking like, oh, I need a treadmill to be able to get my cardio in. You don't. You got legs. Walk around your house, right? Like I've been at the point where I had a couple thousand steps. I paced my fucking house, right? And now I have a walking treadmill in front of my desk, which is great. It's super effective, which is another thing I would suggest if you can afford it. But like, not everybody can, and so it's just one of those things. Like keep these things in mind, right? Maybe that's why you're not seeing the results that you want to see. Is because your steps are shit. So if you're and I always want to say if you're if you're only getting a couple thousand steps in a day, like that's a bigger problem too. That's an actual problem like that for health. And that's something too, right? And I know it. I've been there, right? Not to go off too much more of a tangent, but like whenever I started doing this, right, for a living, right? I started doing this for a living. I went from having a highly active job, right, where I was out in the fucking sun all day, like walking, like being out in the fucking woods, like being on boats, like walking, moving. All my net activity was like through the fucking roof, right? To sitting all fucking day, right? Which is where I got this walking treadmill. To sitting all fucking day, I had to be a lot more diligent about making sure I was getting my steps in, because my net activity, unless I intentionally like made an effort to increase it, now that I'm sitting all the time, would have been way lower. My calories and my metabolism would be a lot lower in a sense, because and my metabolic needs would be a lot lower. But if I'm eating the same amount of food that old me was eating, right, from old me's job, I would start to gain weight, right? I would have started to gain weight. I did start to gain weight. And I was my calories used to be quite a bit higher. I remember, but because my net activity had plummeted quite a bit, and I wasn't getting my steps in as much. So I got this motherfucker. Is because I want to know about that shit, because it's one thing I can keep track of and make sure that I help and reach my goals, right? So keep track of that shit. It's important. Thanks for the reminder to do 7 to 10K steps. You're welcome. I don't always have my phone on me, so I can't count. I work in and off and walk before work and during the lunch breaks. If you want it, then you'll find a way to make it happen. Absolutely. Office job. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, like, and if you're a parent, right, take your kids on walks with you. Like, it's fun, right? At least to an extent, right? It's supposed to be fun, right? Take your kid to the park. Walk around the park while they're doing their thing in the jungle gyms, right? Even like take your kid grocery shopping with you and go walking. Do that. Like there are ways to make this happen, right? There are ways to make this happen. There may be times in your life where it's a lot more inconvenient to make it happen, right? But it still needs to get done, right? At the end of the day, it does not matter how valid our reasoning is to not be able to do it. If you don't do it, you're not going to get the results. If you do it, you're going to get the results. So hope that's helpful, guys. But that's why you should be tracking your steps and not relying on, oh, I did my 15 minutes of cardio today. Because it doesn't matter if you did the 15 minutes of cardio. If you lay around the rest of the day, it doesn't fucking help. So, yeah, hope that was helpful, guys. Let me know your number one takeaway in the comments, please. I love hearing everybody's takeaways. Other than that, let me know your number one takeaway. Feel free to share this video. Helps other people, learn about this shit. And yeah, give the video a like. Helps people see it with the algorithm. But other than that, I'm gonna hop off here. And I hope that you have a good ass rest of your day. And I'll talk to you all later, guys.